Hello, you guys. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day for you who are seeing me right now. Today, I want to talk to you about a very interesting topic, which is conditionals. Conditionals. And we're going to be talking about the first conditional, second conditional, third conditional, and whatever conditional you can think of right now. I hope you know what a conditional is. But listen to me, and I'm gonna tell you something really, really cool. And it is that if you have no idea about the meaning of the word conditional, I'm gonna share the meaning of this word for you so that we can all talk about it. And we're not going to see any kind of stupid translation from any stupid website. We're gonna see the translation according to Cambridge Dictionary, which is the best dictionary in Cambridge. So let's read with me. I'm gonna show you right now the thing that I'm going to be reading, and I hope you can say it with me. And it is right here. So let's say a conditional relating to a sentence, often starting with if or unless, in which one half expresses something which depends on the other. So basically, what this definition is trying to tell us is that a conditional it's simply a part of a sentence in which the other part of the sentence depends on this previous part to make sense as a whole. I really hope you understood it, guys. I made myself understood because I know maybe sometimes I get a little bit confused when it comes to explaining stuff like that. So the next thing that I want to do now is I want to do a couple of exercises. These exercises are really interesting, and we're going to start with the zero conditional. What is the zero conditional? Simple, easy, easy. Now we have two parts. Remember, a conditional is just a sentence with two clauses, with two parts, in which one part depends on the other part to become real or to be real, yeah, or at least to make sense. For example, we have the zero conditional, which is the first conditional we're going to be talking about today. It's not the first conditional, the one we're going to be talking about, because zero comes before first. So it makes sense that we should talk about this one first. So zero conditional, what is it and how does it work? And the zero conditional has two clauses, just as every single conditional we're going to be talking about today. And the first clause is if you can see it here. Let me show you what I'm looking at right now. We have if, which is right here. I'm sorry for clearing out my throat. And we have if plus present simple, and we have the main clause, which is present simple. For example, if I am late for school, comma, this comma is very important, my teacher gets angry. So the zero conditional is pretty simple because it's basically a conditional in which two parts of the sentence, the if clause and the main clause, both of them have to be real. No matter what happens, it will always be real. So if I am late for school, my teacher gets angry. So no matter what the situation is, it will always be like that. So this is the main, the most important part of zero conditional. Both clauses have to be always real. Okay. Okay. This is really good. If I oversleep, yeah, if I oversleep, this is another example. What happens if I oversleep? Exactly. If I oversleep, I am late for school. If I miss the bus, I am late for school. If I oversleep, I miss the bus. If I miss the bus, I'm late for school. I guess that I skipped one layer. So let's see it again. If I oversleep, I miss the bus. If I miss the bus, I'm late for school. So remember something really important about zero conditional. Both clauses have to be in present, always in present. Okay. Okay, let's continue with the results, with the hypothetical results. If I am late for school, my teacher gets angry. Trail. Okay, let's talk about now. Let's talk about our first conditional now. First conditional turns into something a little bit more complicated. It's not that difficult, but it's just a little bit more complicated. First conditional, of course, it's a combination of two clauses, the if clause and the main clause. The if clause it's structured like if plus a present tense. And then we have the main clause, which is will, can, may, must plus verb. In other words, we can use any auxiliary verb like will, can, may, or must plus a verb, right? And remember, whenever you start a conditional with the if clause, you always need a comma in between the two clauses. That's really important, okay? Let's read the example together. If I go to London, I will see the Big Ben. You can also say, if I go to London, I can see the Big Ben. If I go to London, I may see the Big Ben. Or if I go to London, I must see the Big Ben. Remember, you can always use any of these for modal verbs in order to make your sentence more interesting. Okay, so let's see the next one. If I go to London, I will see the Big Ben. If I go to Buckingham Palace, I can take a photo of the Royal Guard. If you go to London, you must look right before crossing the street. Well, actually, you must look right before crossing the street. No matter what place you go to, you should always do it. Whenever you are walking on a zebra path, you should always, you must always look right before crossing the street. Because you could die. If you don't do it, you die. Zero conditional, remember. Then we have second conditional. The second conditional is very interesting. It's a bit more complicated, just a little bit more complicated. Second conditional, it's about a situation in present which is not true. It's about talking about a situation in present which is not true, but you're talking about a hypothetical scenario in which your present would be different. So how would your present be different if you had a different condition in present? That's basically second conditional. It's the way your present would be different if your present were difficult or different. Sorry. So let's see. We have two clauses as well. I told you that we always have two clauses in conditionals. The if clause and the main clause. In this case, the if clause is if plus past simple or simple past. And then we have the main clause, which is the usage of the modal verbs would, could, might, plus a verb, of course, in the base form, because would, could, might are modal verbs. And whenever you use a modal verb, the next verb stays in the base form. For example, if I were an astronaut, I would travel in a spaceship. What does it mean? The meaning of this past simple tense is that right now you're not an astronaut. So that's why you're talking about past. The use of past represents an imaginary hypothetical meaning of your present. Of course, imaginary hypothetical means that it's not true, or at least right now it's not true, right? So if I were an astronaut, it means that right now I'm not an astronaut. I would travel in a spaceship. So in the future, in the hypothetical present and future, I would travel in a spaceship. So this is what I would be doing right now if my present were difficult or different, sorry. And something really important about this conditional is this little word right here. I'm going to point at this word because it's really important, the word where. So some of you might be asking or wondering, oh, but why do you use where, I wear, if the correct simple past form of the verb be for first person I is was. I was happy yesterday. Yeah, you're right. But when it comes to second conditional, you always use where. Whenever you want to use the verb be in past, you always use where. No matter what the subject is, you should always use it. For example, if my sister were here, I would talk to her. You always use where when it comes to verb be in simple past and the same conditional. Yeah, so Don't talk about that too much. All right, so let's move on. Let's move forward to the next part, which is the examples. Okay, so let's see a couple of examples. Look at this beautiful picture. If I were an astronaut, I would travel in spaceship. Well, this is the same example we used before, but in this case, you can see a picture, a beautiful picture, which makes you believe that you are an actual astronaut. Okay, the second example is if I traveled in a spaceship, I would go to Mars. If I traveled in a spaceship, I would go to Mars. Remember again, we're using simple past in the if clause, and in the main clause, we are simply using would, which is the model, one of the 4 modal verbs I told you could use before. And of course, after the modal verb would, you always use the base form of the verb go. You can never say to go or goes or will go. No, would go, which is the base form. Yeah. So now nice to meet you. Next one. If I went to Mars, I would need a Martian. Interesting. Interesting example. Simple past, would plus the base form of the verb. And the comma, remember. Whenever you start a sentence with the if clause, you always need a comma in it. All right? Let's see the next one. If I met a Martian, I wouldn't understand him. Okay. Simple past. Would in this case is negative, would not or wouldn't, plus the base form of the verb. Okay, if I didn't understand him, I would come back to the earth. If I didn't understand, this is simple past. Don't freak out. A lot of people freak out whenever they see the second conditional in the negative form. Don't freak out. It's simply simple past. It's just simple past, but in the negative form. For example, how do you say I am happy? Well, I love cats in past. I love cats. Yeah. And how do you say it in the negative form? I didn't love cats. It's the same thing. It's just a simple past, but in the negative form. Okay. So if I didn't understand him, I would come back to the verb. Now let's talk about third conditional, which is the most difficult according to every single person I know. Third conditional is very interesting. Well, all the conditionals are really interesting for me. I really think they are. But the third conditional is kind of difficult. It's the most difficult one, yes, it is. And why? Because in this case, we're talking about a situation in past, which it's a hypothetical situation in past. I'm talking about a situation in past that is unreal, that is imaginary, that is hypothetical. So I'm basically trying to imagine what would have happened if this situation in the past that actually happened would have been different, right? So for example, imagine that yesterday I bought a chocolate, and right now I feel guilty because I bought this chocolate. So I said, what would have happened if I hadn't bought this chocolate yesterday? So the third conditional is about this. It's about 2 clauses, of course. The first clause, the if clause, is about something that happened in the past, hypothetically, something that was not real, with an unreal result in the past as well in the main clause. So that is basically the third conditional, right? Let's talk about the structure, the fun part. Okay, we have 2 clauses as well, as I told you before. We have the if clause, which is if plus past perfect. Remember, past perfect, the structure is subject, auxiliary had, plus the past participle form of the main verb, plus the complement. Okay, and then we have the main clause. The main clause is would. You can use would, could, might, plus the verb have, always have, plus the past participle form of the verb, and of course, if necessary, the complements. Let's see a couple of examples. Oh, the first example is this one right? If I had studied hard, I would have passed my exam. What does it mean? The first clause is an imaginary result in past. So what is the real result in past? That I didn't study, or I didn't study hard for this exam. But if I had done it, I would have passed the exam. And of course, the main clause is as well an imaginary results in the past. Okay, so I would have passed an exam. What is the actual real thing that happened in the past? That I didn't pass the exam. I didn't study and I didn't pass the exam. But what would have happened if the situation had been different? If I had studied, then I would have passed the exam. That's what it means, right? Let's say if you had studied, if you had studied hard, you wouldn't have failed your exam, right? So if you had studied hard, you wouldn't have failed the exam. What is the real scenario? That this little kid, of course, didn't study hard because maybe he did study hard, but he forgot about everything. He froze. I don't know. Let's try to be gentle on him. But the results are obvious. He got an F, and his mom thinks he didn't study hard for the exam, but she tells him, if you had done it, if you had studied hard for this freaking exam, then you wouldn't have failed it. And what is the actual result in past is that he failed the exam. You can see he has an F. F stands for fail, in case you didn't know it. Okay, let's see this next example. If you had passed your exam, you could have gone to the beach. Well, but apparently a lot of people are nagging at this guy. A lot of people are grounding him, are yelling at him. So first is a teacher. You can see the teacher is yelling at him, and she's really angry. It's like, if you had studied hard, you wouldn't have failed your freaking exam, little motherfucker. So yeah, oh my gosh, and she has a ruler. She has a ruler in her left hand. If you notice, she has a ruler. She has a kind of threatening attitude towards the kid. So oh my gosh, thank God she was not my teacher. My English teachers, oh my gosh, all my English teachers, they were super nice, and I loved them, all and every single one of them. And okay, after that, to top it off, I think this woman is the kid's mom, and she tells him, if you had passed your exam, you could have gone to the beach. So she's virtually nagging him. She's virtually grounding him. So she's giving him a penalty. Okay, he deserves it. I mean, whenever a kid fails exam, or maybe a person fails exam, I think this person deserves a punishment. But the punishment shouldn't be like something that makes someone feels bad or humiliated. It should be something that encourages this person to study hard, or to become a better student, and to become a better person next time. And I'm not. I mean, I don't have any kids, but I want to have a kid. And when I have a kid, I want to teach him how to be a better student, how to be a better person, but without using violence or threatening, or intimidation. I don't want to use that. So I think this is not a good way to teach your kids. So, but well, anyways, let's go back to the example. And then the kid, I suppose this kid is is a grown up now. After a couple of years, he still regrets. Oh, by the way, this is one of the reasons why I use third conditional. I use third conditional mostly to talk about regrets. For example, if I had talked to that person, I would have had my first kids before 17. So look at this example. This kid is actually regretting. He regrets now after, I can imagine, maybe a couple of years, maybe 5, 6 years. And he says, if I had gone to the beach, I would have made sand castles. Oh my gosh. He still regrets about something that happened many years ago. And the only thing he regrets for is because he didn't make sand castles. People are crazy. Yeah, people are super crazy. So, well, this is it. This is it, guys. I really hope you liked it. I really hope you liked it. And, well, um, if you keep watching my videos, and if you keep supporting me and talking to me and commenting my videos, I feel if you keep doing it, I'm alive. I feel alive. So please don't stop doing it. If you like what I'm doing, you will like my video and you will subscribe. You will comment down below. And if I were you, I would do it right away. Um, if I had had a chance to meet you before, I would have taught you English before today. Thank you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Please comment down below, subscribe, and for God's sake, share this video with people who need to study English and who, share with people who are struggling with conditionals because they're not difficult. This is a really, really big misconception. Conditionals are not difficult. They're super easy. The difficult thing is your mindset. That's kidding. It's just a piece. It's just a piece of cake. Just practice. If you need practice, ask me to give you some exercises, and I will give it to you. English is super easy if you commit to it. So that's it. Teacher Frank says goodbye. Take care. Sayonara. Sorry. Goodbye.